Do you struggle with anticipatory anxiety? We're going to talk all about it. Stay tuned. That's what's up next. Hi, my name is Natasha Daniels. I'm a therapist and make videos for people with anxiety or OCD. And today I want to talk to you about something that is near and dear to my anxious heart, and that is anticipatory anxiety, something I struggle with all the time and something I have had to master and learn how to cope with. And anticipatory anxiety is really just the anticipation of something that you are anxious about. And it can literally be anything. It could be a presentation you have to do, or it could be going to the doctor, going to the dentist. It could be having to do a talk in front of a lot of people. It could be going to a birthday party or a social event. It could literally just be anything that you know you're anticipating you're going to be anxious about. And your what if mind is stirring out of control. I get that, because with social anxiety, anticipatory anxiety is like its best friend. It's like peanut butter and jelly. And so I anticipate and have a lot of stress before events, often more than I do when I'm in the event, because I'm worrying about how bad it's actually going to be, or how much I'm going to mess this up, or how embarrassing it's going to be when this happens that hasn't happened already. So a lot of times we'll think we can't do anything about anticipatory anxiety. We just have to wait until we get to the event or the situation, and then we'll deal with the anxiety that comes. And some of us have coping mechanisms that are like, I'm not even going to acknowledge that it's happening. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to do anything. And then they show up to the event and like, boom, they're overwhelmed. I guess it's an avoidant anticipatory anxiety, because they're very anxious, but they're shutting down. I don't have that. A lot of us actually have this rumination where we like stew on it, and we're like, there's a movie in our head of all the many ways this is going to go horrifically wrong and how embarrassing or horrible it's going to be, whatever it may be for you. Everyone's core fears are different. And so I think about that as like a snowball coming down a hill, and it builds speed. And as it builds speed and we think about it more and more, and we're giving more brain power and more space in our head for the what ifs of this event or situation, an avalanche happens. And by the time the event or situation shows up, whether it's that day or that's the hour, we're so overwhelmed with stress that we kind of set ourselves up for failure, because then we might be paralyzed with fear, and we can't do it because we're too overwhelmed. Has that ever happened to you? I know that tries to happen with me, but I've learned to be proactive, which means I address the anticipatory anxiety way before the situation or event is about to happen. And so if it is like weeks and weeks out or months out, I'll back burner it, which means I'll tell my brain, don't worry about it. We're going to schedule a worry the week of that happening. I know that sounds really stupid, but actually works really well for me when I back burner. And I do this with my kids too. And I've done it for kids in my therapy practice. I'll say, if it's like, I don't want a long runway. I don't want a full month of worrying with what ifs, because by the time that event shows up, it's going to be catastrophic. I'm going to be so overwhelmed that I'll probably have an anxiety attack and I won't be able to do it. And so I don't want 4 weeks of worry, right? My brain needs to process it. If I'm just thrown in there without any processing, it won't go well. And so I tell my anxiety, I gotcha. We're going to stew on this, but not until, and I'll give it a date. And then I back burner it until then. And that does work, because I catch those thoughts and I go, no, we're going to worry about it. Don't worry, we're going to worry. But we're not going to worry about it until the week of when this is going to happen. That actually happened to me recently. I was supposed to speak at a very large, well, it wasn't a very large event, but it was a public event, and I don't like public events. And they may or may not call me on stage, which was even worse, because I didn't know exactly how it was going to go down. My brain wanted to worry about it a month in advance. And I said, we're going to worry about it 2 days before the event. And I did. And I rehearsed in my head over and over what I was going to say. And by the time the event happened, I was not as anxious. I wasn't comfortable, but I wasn't as anxious because I had practiced and rehearsed in my head what I would say and how it would go well. So back burnering is my first tip. The second thing is, when you can't back burner because it's happening very soon, you want to say to your brain, what is the worst thing that can happen? I know you're trying to come up with these like horrific things, but genuinely, what is the worst thing that can happen? And depending on what it is, can you embrace that? So if it's speaking and, oh, everyone's going to laugh at you, what is an alternative thought I could have? How can I reframe whatever story I am presenting to my brain to make me anxious about it? If it's going to the doctor, it's going to hurt. Yeah, it might hurt, but I've done it before and it's not going to hurt for a very long period of time, and then I'll be able to move on. Or, yeah, I'm going to this party and people may not talk to me and I'll be able to survive. It might be uncomfortable, but then I'll go home, right? Maybe they will talk to me. So sometimes just embracing that, yes, this might happen, but I can handle it, can be a good approach, because then your anxiety is kind of like, how am I supposed to fight with that? I want to come back and fight with it. For me, when I thought I may or may not have to speak at that event, I said, I don't know any of these people. And the likelihood of me ever knowing any of these people is slim to none. And so does it really matter that much? Do they really care about what I'm going to say? It's 2 minutes. Luckily, I didn't have to speak. But if I did, I think I would have been okay. And by okay, I mean like I wouldn't have thrown up. It wouldn't have been that bad, but I would have gotten through it. I wouldn't have liked it. And that's really all we're trying to do is, can we get to the point where we can manage it? So back burner, and then when you have to think about it, you're going to start reframing your thoughts. What is a thought that you can have related to this that says you can do this? Maybe it will go well. You don't know, right? But you can be realistic. The third thing I'll say, and the final thing for this video, is can you shut your eyes and imagine it going well? Visual imagery is actually very powerful. They've shown in research that when you practice mentally in your head, when athletes practice, they take a swing or they take a shot mentally, the same areas of their brain light up as if they were really doing it. Isn't that crazy? And so mental practice is actually neurologically very effective. And so when we practice the bad things, when we see all the bad things that are going to happen, it's not really helping us. But when we force ourselves to close our eyes and imagine it going well, it doesn't mean it has to go crazy well. Like I didn't shut my eyes and imagine a standing ovation. They're like, Natasha, she's amazing. No, I just imagined that I didn't throw up and I didn't make a fool out of myself. And I was able to get up on stage and I said a few words and I got off and I survived, right? Not a bad story, but not like a crazy, fantastical story. So can you close your eyes and imagine you go to the doctor and they give you the shot and then you leave there and it wasn't fun, but it was okay, you survived. Or could you give that presentation and it wasn't fun, but you know what? They kind of clapped and they laughed at the right spots and it wasn't that bad and you got through it pretty quickly and you got a good grade and you were able to survive, right? So close your eyes and visualize it happening and rehearse and practice. That can actually do something neurologically to you, and it's very positive, and it's not something that anxious brains do. I know my brain does not do that. It's not its go-to. It's not like, hey, let's work on imagining the best possible thing coming from this. That's not normal for me. But I can sit there and force my brain to do it, and when I'm doing that, my brain doesn't have the space to be able to also present all the worst and horrible things that can happen. I can't compete with that in that moment. So rehearsing and mentally visualizing it going well can be super powerful. All right, well, I hope that you found this helpful. I will talk to you again next Thursday. Don't forget to find the sparkle in everything you do. Take care.